Okay, this is the blood typing tutorial. You are going to need this worksheet. You'll be filling out this bottom part, and then you can try to do the second side, these Punnett squares, if you want tonight, but then we'll be going over them in class tomorrow. So don't worry if you can't get them, but you might give them a try after the tutorial, okay? The first part of it at the top is talking about, like, if you have a little test tube of blood. Okay, we often think of blood as a liquid, which part of it is, but most of your blood is actually a solid portion, and that's the red blood cells, which is what RBCs stands for, red blood cells. WBCs, which you probably already know, are white blood cells, and those are what fight off any kind of infection or any foreign invaders in your blood, which we'll be talking about in a minute when we talk about blood types. The red blood cells carry oxygen and carbon dioxide, which you know from cellular respiration. And your plasma is just like a bunch of water. That's mainly what plasma is made out of, is water. But there's also salts and some hormones in your plasma. But it's the liquid portion of your blood. You can think of your blood like a big river of water, and in it there's tons and tons of these red blood cells and white blood cells that float through that river and carry your food to your cells and the oxygen to your cells and the carbon dioxide back to your lungs to exhale. Okay? And that's just a quick overview of blood, because that's what we're talking about. The other thing that you're going to need to remember is today in class we talked about two terms, heterozygous and homozygous. Okay? Heterozygous is different. And when we talked about eye color, we talked about big B, little b. And homozygous means the same, which is big B, or little b, little b. We also talked about the term phenotype and genotype. Phenotype is the physical feature, which today will be like a blood type. Genotype are the genes that you get. You've got to remember that your parents each give you an allele for a gene. So you have two alleles, and that will be the genotype today. You'll see what I'm talking about in a little while. Okay, so let's get started on our notes. We're going to do blood types first. Okay, there are 4 blood types. Okay, there's blood type A, there's blood type B, there's AB, and there's O. Okay? I'm filming and writing at the same time, so work with me here. Okay, so there's the blood types. Now, an antigen is basically a protein that your body makes, and depending on what type of blood you have depends on the antigen that's found on your red blood cell. Okay, make sure you understand it's found on your red blood cell. So if you have type A blood, now we're going to pretend like that's a little red blood cell, then you have little proteins that say, hey, I'm type A. So I'm putting little A's on these. Now, that's not necessarily what's on your red blood cells. It's a protein, but that's what we're going to signify it with, okay? So obviously, if you have type B blood, you would have, let's see if you can figure it out. What would you have on your red blood cells? If you said little b's, you are right, okay? Now, recall, they don't really look like A's and B's, okay? So, type A blood has little proteins, which we call antigens, on the red blood cells that say, hey, I'm type A. Type B has little ones that say B. Okay? If you have type AB blood, then your body makes both A's and B's on there. Okay? So it would look like that. It would say, we have both A's and B's. Now, type O, it doesn't have little O's on it. Type O doesn't make any antigens. It's just, pretend like it's just a real smooth red blood cell with no antigens on it. Okay? All right. Now, here's the interesting thing about blood types. Both A and B are dominant. Okay? So if you get A, and like say your mom gave you type A and your dad gave you type B, that's when you have what's called codominance, and you get type AB blood. O is recessive. Remember, that's the weaker one, which you'll find interesting when we talk about it tomorrow. So A is dominant, B is dominant, and AB are called co-dominant. They share dominance. It's not like you get one or the other. They share. Okay. Now we're moving on to the antibodies in the plasma. Remember, this was the antigen on your red blood cell. If you have type A, then you had little A's. Now, the thing about if you have type A blood is your body says, we don't want any B's in here. See, A's, they do not want B's in there. So they make an antibody that hangs out in your plasma just looking for a B. And if it sees a B, it's going to latch onto it and not, it's going to basically clot. And you do not want blood clots in your, vessels. That's not a good thing, okay? You want your blood to clot when you have a wound, but you do not want your blood clotting in your vessels. So that is why you cannot receive type B blood if you have type A blood. So antibody in the plasma is B. You can receive from, well, you obviously know, if you're type A, you can receive blood from A's, okay? And you can also receive from O, and we'll come back to that in a minute, okay? The people you can donate to, well, you can donate obviously to A's, and you can also donate to AB, okay? So we'll come back to this. It'll all make sense in a minute, so just work with me here. You can receive from A and O, and you can donate to A and AB. Okay, type B. Well, he has B's antigens on his red blood cell. So obviously, what does he not want in his blood? A's. B's do not want A's, okay? So in his plasma, he makes antibodies against A. So B's, they can receive blood from another B. That's not a problem. And they can also receive from O. They can donate to other B's. That's easy. And just like A, they can also donate to AB. Okay? Now, let's go move on. If you have type AB blood, you don't make any antibodies. So there are no antibodies in your plasma because you're accepting. You don't mind A's and you don't mind B's. So you can receive blood from type A, type B, type AB, or O. Type AB blood is called the universal receiver. I before E except after C. See, even teachers have to remember this. Okay? Type AB blood is called the universal receiver because it can receive blood from any of the blood types. Now, who can it donate to? Well, remember, it has both an A and a B protein on its red blood cell. So, if you look back here, if you have type A blood, you don't want any B's, so that would get rid of ours. If you have type B blood, you don't want any A's, okay? And we'll get to O in a minute. So basically, ABs can only go to other ABs. That's the only people that they can donate to, is ABs. Okay, now let's talk about the recessive blood type O. O doesn't make any antigens. It has no protein markers on it. However, in its plasma, it makes antibodies against both A and B. So, maybe this will kind of give you some information about who it can receive blood from. If it doesn't want any A's or B's, then the only people that it can receive blood from are other O's. People who have type O blood are in huge requests to donate blood at the Red Cross all the time because O's can only get blood from other O's. And you'll notice, okay, that people can, anyone, look, A's can receive blood from O, B's, AB blood, and O. O is known as the universal donor. Okay? O is the universal donor because everybody can receive blood from O. But O's can only get blood from themselves. So they can donate to A's, B's, A, B's, and O's. Okay? All right, so those are the blood types, A, B, and O. A, B, and O. Remember, A and B was dominant. They share dominancy. That's called codominant. Okay, now I'm going to erase this because I want to show you how this works when you get your blood types from your parents. Okay. Let's say you have what's called type A blood. Okay? Well, you could have gotten an A from your mom and an A from your dad. This is called your genotype. This is what would be in your genes, okay, the alleles that you got from your parents. That's the genotype. You could have AA, but you could also have maybe one parent gave you an A and another parent gave you the recessive O. Okay? You notice I have capital A's and that's a lowercase o. That's your genotype. This type A would be called your phenotype. This is what we can tell. Okay? This is like if a doctor tells you, oh, you have type A blood. Okay, that's your phenotype. That's the physical thing that we can tell. We still don't know if you had an A from mom and an A from dad, or an A from mom and an O from dad. We don't know that. Okay? Now, let's say you have type B. Then you would have big B, but you could also have big B, O. And yes, I know kids love to say BO, but so it could be a big B, or a big B, little o. Okay, let's say you have type AB blood. There is only one genotype that you could get. One parent gave you an A, and one parent gave you a B, and it's called AB blood. Remember, they're codominant. And the last one, type O blood, there's only one thing you could get here. You know it's recessive, and if it's a recessive trait, then you have to get both little O's from your parents. Okay? So we're going to do one practice Punnett square using these, just like we did today. Let's say we have a heterozygous type B. Okay, heterozygous type B. So the genotype that we would use for heterozygous type B is BO. Okay, big B, little o. And let's say that was the mom, and then the dad is going to be a homozygous type A. Homozygous would have to be two of the same, so there's homozygous type A. So we'll put in A. So here's our Punnett square with a dad who has type B blood and a mom who has type A blood. Okay? Let's do our Punnett square just like we did today in class. These are going to be the probabilities that your child could have between these two parents. Okay? If you'll notice, there's two probabilities of this child having AB blood, even though neither one of their parents did. Okay? But they could also be a type A blood. Okay? There's a 50-50 chance on AB blood and A blood. Now what I want you to try to do now is try and do the worksheet on the back using your information that you got. Okay, here was our practice Punnett square. If you don't get it, don't panic. We'll go over it tomorrow in class. But We have a special challenge problem that you can try when you get here to class tomorrow. So hopefully this was helpful. If not, watch it again. And I hope that you have a good night.